Hello and welcome back to Pseudo Gameplay TV for the next installment in our character analysis series. Today we will be going over the first of the two free DLC characters that are made available, and that is none other than Cyclops. Now, Cyclops is a very interesting character, one of the oldest members of the X-Men. His first appearance was in the original X-Men comics, X-Men #1, which was released back in September of 1963. So Cyclops has been around for a while. Scott Summers is his birth name. He was actually born in Anchorage, Alaska, of all places, so a bit of an interesting little tidbit of information there. And Scott has a couple of very unique powers to him specifically, where he has optic force blasts, which optic implying that those blasts come from his eyes. He also happens to be a master tactician and a master martial artist and hand-to-hand combatant. So Scott Summers is an interesting character. There's a lot of controversy revolving around him in the comics, but we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail on that, mainly because none of it really comes apparent in his appearance in this game. It is noteworthy to mention that his older brother Havoc, who has similar blast type powers, they are ineffective against one another. Basically because their mutation comes from a very similar place. But we haven't seen Havoc in this game yet, and it would honestly be surprised if he showed up, though a welcome one at that. The powers that Scott Summers and Cyclops has available to him in this game are, well, and even his attack kit in general, are all heavily based around those optic blasts that he can emit. The first one is the optic blast, where Cyclops will fire a beam in the direction that the character is facing. You can hold this button to continue attacking and move with L, or with the left joystick. Now, it's important to note that other characters that you can move and manipulate this attack with, they will kind of turn their head or where their body's facing. Cyclops jumps around, so you cannot manipulate the direction that this beam is being emitted in. As you use it, you can manipulate where Scott's placed, but nothing else. And that will be part of the thing that will show in the real-time battle usage. The second attack which he has is the triple shot, where he will jump into the air and fire multiple beams into the ground, setting off explosions that launch enemies into the air. This does go out in a straight line away from him and does have some splash damage or area of effect where it takes place. So it has its uses, but it's very interesting as well. The third attack which he has access to is the eyes wide open, where a scattered beam is fired in the direction that the character is facing. And this is one of those attacks that you can hold to charge up and release all at once. And it does have a very wide range of effect, which we'll see momentarily. The final attack which he has access to is the ricochet beam, where a beam is fired in the direction that the character is facing, and this beam does bounce off of walls. It gets 4 bounces, and on the 5th point of contact, it dissipates, and we'll showcase that here as well. Now, the team dynamic that we have put together here for Cyclops maxes out his personal synergies, and that can be accomplished with, in this scenario, Wolverine, Punisher, and Doctor Strange. Now, real quick before we jump into the 200-man Infinity Rift, we will showcase where you can obtain Cyclops and consequently Colossus, who we will be reviewing on Friday. So let's head over there and demonstrate how you can get this character, or indicate, I should say, because we're going to do the 200 style rift to actually showcase his abilities. Now, Cyclops comes available in the Phi Rift, which is a rift that comes available to you once you update the game. All you have to do is have an internet connection and the original file of the game, whether it be physical or digital, and when you install the software update, this rift will come available to you. Now, as long as you've played through the storyline once, it's going to be pretty straightforward in terms of unlocking Cyclops and his counterpart Colossus as well. But Cyclops' fight in particular requires the it requires you to take down the Infinity Sentinel, which you will have encountered in the main series, or seen in my Let's Play if you've watched that series. Now, the gimmick with this fight is your HP for each character on the team will drop slowly, but dealing damage will restore that lost health. So it is important to note that if you use team synergy attacks, you will tend to do better in this particular type of challenge. And you are only required to clear the challenge once in order to gain access to Cyclops and make him usable. But let's jump into a Style 200 Rift and showcase what he looks like in battle. Alright, so a couple of things to note about Cyclops is he does have a double jump, which involves a flip in the air. And his aerial attack is interesting because it involves an optic blast that propels him backwards and kind of allows him to escape from anything that might be impending directly below him. It's not the greatest in terms of damage output, so it's not incredibly efficient. Now, his medium attacks, or his standard attacks, include a 3-hit burst, followed by a 4th laser shot that goes out directly in front of him. And that will knock down the opponents that it gets landed on, and goes a fair distance. Actually, I believe we can probably make it all the way across. We might be able to make it all the way across this arena here. Not quite, but it goes a significant amount. Now, the first, or his heavy attack, is a bit unique in its own right, because it's a sweeping about 30 to 45 degrees out in front of the character. Now, the Optic Blast is the first attack he has access to, and this is an attack that's not great in terms of damage output, but it doesn't take up a lot of the stamina bar, and as you saw, as you manipulate it with the left stick, he just kind of adjusts his positioning. If you want to adjust the direction that beam is being shot, you need to end the attack and start it up again. But it's not great in terms of damage output, despite its low use of the mana, so I wouldn't really recommend it. The second attack is the triple shot, which is decent against some of the smaller opponents, has some okay stagger pressure, but again, not super useful. One of the better attacks, in my personal opinion, is this third attack, which is Eyes Wide Open. Now, you do charge this attack up. You can be knocked out of it, so be wary of that. But once it's charged, it releases in almost 180-degree field of view out in front of Cyclops and will knock down any smaller opponent. So it has quite a few implications if you're looking to clear out the large groups of enemies out in front of you. Now, his fourth attack isn't great in terms of reliability and really only works in closed spaces like this, but it is the Ricochet Beam. And as I mentioned, it ricochets off of 5 targets and then will dissipate off, or it ricochets 4 times, and on the 5th hit, it dissipates completely. It's very good at disrupting the battle, but not the most reliable damage dealer, consequentially. Now, his ultimate and extreme attack, you want to plan accordingly because it is out in front of him. He will draw an X out in front of his field of vision and then unleash a terrifying optic blast in the direction that the character is facing, which does significant amount of damage and knockdown as well. Now, in terms of the attacks, utility-wise, I personally find myself throwing out a Ricochet Beam if I'm in a closed space, and then the Eyes Wide Open attack to finish off some of the lower level grunts, just because it's got quite a strong amount of knockdown to it. But he's not my favorite character. He does balance out a team decently well in terms of mixing up melee damage and the range capabilities, so certainly some areas to use him and make him useful. I do thank you for your patience with me in this series, and we will be back tomorrow with another video, but on Friday we will be doing the character analysis for Colossus. So make sure you're subscribed if you have not already to make sure that you are notified when that video comes out. Until then, thanks again for your support, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.